I didn't really set out to make an action movie. I set out to make a love story that has a head-on collision with a ridiculously fun action movie.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. Here this week with my colleagues and co-hosts, Rebecca Pahle and Chad Kennerk from Box Office Pro. And in this week's episode, we will be talking to the director of Lionsgate's The Killer's Game, the new film coming out this weekend from director J.J. Perry. J.J. will be speaking with me in the second half of this episode to talk about his new movie starring Dave Bautista in a starring role, a fun, quirky action comedy to help us get through September. And well, it's a good September so far. We've had a fantastic result at the box office with a $111 million opening weekend from Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I haven't seen it yet. Chad, you went to the movies last weekend. Where did you catch the movie?
I did. I went to see my friends at Metropolitan Theaters and saw it in IMAX. We did it up right. My wife and I, we had popcorn and ices. So all of that was a great experience. The movie, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think it has some good flourishes of classic Tim Burton, especially with Monica Bellucci like stapling her body parts together.
I heard that it's just like sequences, like 3-minute long sequences of Monica Bellucci just showing up, kind of doing a giallo pastiche sort of thing, which, I mean, that sounds fun to me.
Yeah, it just had a lot going on, I think, because it's been such a long time and they've had
like
so
5
many
different
ideas.
plot lines.
Yes, yeah. They're like, let's put them all in one movie.
And the audience score on that same platform is 82%. So people are enjoying it, but I don't think it's going to be the sort of movie that people might be going back to again and again. Did it play that way for you, Chad, at all?
Which is fine. I mean, we need those sorts of movies as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to see. But if I'm going to go back and watch something in that vein again, I'm going to watch the original Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a lot of these remakes, actually. Sometimes you're watching a movie and you're reminded of better movies that came before it. That's not the best bet, sometimes for a return visit. But again, $100 million plus opening weekend. Fantastic result here to kick off September. We've got 2 new openers this weekend. We're expecting more modest results from our feature interview, The Killer's Game, probably a ceiling of $8 to $10 million at most. I think between $4 or $5 million at the bottom end to 8 to 10 on the high end, more of a counter programmer from Lionsgate this weekend. And then the thriller Speak No Evil. Do I have the title correctly? I should have pulled this up.
Yeah, it is Speak No Evil, and I'm excited to see it. I haven't seen the original film that it's based on, but yeah, this is definitely one I want to go check out. I mean, it's slow weekend. NFL football just started back up, right? I mean, I feel like this is very much a weekend in September.
Mm-hmm. And the Mets are back in the playoff race, Rebecca. I know you didn't go to the movies because you were.
I went to a Mets game.
It's Citi Field, they call it these days.
It is Citi Field. No, I did go to a Mets game, and actually, I like when I go to one of the minor league games out in Coney Island. There's always one of those little segments, trivia, and it's like always sponsored by Alamo, and it's nice just to see a little marketing out there, a little community engagement.
Yeah.
Nothing to that effect at Citi Field, but
Yeah.
So, well, we won. That's the important thing.
Well, it's a competitive time. As we're saying, I think the fall sports season is coming on and taking up a lot of people's weekend time, at least here in the United States, when it comes to staying in and watching television on the weekends, kids back in school. It's competitive, as it always is in September, but the Beetlejuice sequel coming in, doing good business. Speak No Evil, as you were saying, that movie is probably going to open between $15 and $20 million. That's the range that we have from our forecasting panel right now. A modest performance here. Of course, we're expecting Beetlejuice to finish its second frame up on top once again.
Well, what catches my attention on the upcoming release calendar is the event cinema release of the 10th anniversary of the Babadook, because that is the film that came out right when I started working at Film Journal, which was folded in to Box Office. So it's been about one Babadook's length of time since I've been working in this industry, and that's kind of like, oh my goodness, 10 years.
Do they sell that children's book? Because I've been reading Llama Llama Red Pajama way too much lately. We need something spooky for my
That
baby.
was like the children, the pop-up?
Yeah,
it's a good pop-up book. We'll see if I can find it somewhere. If anybody listening to this knows where I can find a Babadook children's book. My current child will thank you in the future for doing this for her. Let's look at the top 10 locations here from Beetlejuice Beetlejuice as we talk about spooky season. Because yes, well, we could expect AMC Burbank and AMC Universal City Walk in LA to finish with the top 2 spots. We have to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Santikos with their Casablanca San Antonio location over-indexing, ending up being the number 3 location in North America for that opening weekend of Beetlejuice. Always great to see our friends at Santikos come in and sneak in to the really top 3, top 5 spots here on opening weekend. Top 10 DMAs for the film are LA in the first place, New York in second, Dallas in number 3, followed by Houston, 4th place. 5th place is going to be Chicago, followed by San Francisco, Phoenix, Philadelphia, Orlando, and Atlanta. Notice I didn't say San Antonio in any of those top 10 markets. So for San Antonio's Santikos Casablanca location to sneak in as the number 3 money earner in the country, not only country, US and Canada, fantastic results. Looking at that impact from premium large format on opening weekend, we're seeing around 33%. That's a third of the revenue for Beetlejuice coming from PLF auditoriums. Another strong weekend from premium auditoriums. And as we talk premiums and we talk Texas exhibitors, Chad, we had a record September opening from one of the top chains in the country.
Yeah, a couple records broken over at Cinemark. September best weekend results across premium formats there, such as Cinemark XD. And then also on the concession side, they broke records for food and beverage there. And then overall, it was the company's biggest domestic opening weekend box office for a September title.
Hey, great news.
And we have some good news from our friends up in Canada at Cineplex as well, with August of this year out earning August back in 2019, which is definitely some good news. They're really outperforming the pre-pandemic era in August. Hopefully that extends in September. They're outperforming the average kind of index of the North American industry as a whole, and are doing particularly well, as they tend to do, with international cinema, with event cinema programming. Coraline was specifically pointed out as something this is just really been killing it at the box office, which is great to see.
Yeah. Well, it's a global re-release. This year it came out on August 15th. Domestic is being handled by Fathom. Yeah, I know different distribution partners are there. I think they all hit this out of the park. We're seeing a 51 million total global box office haul in less than 1 month for the Coraline 15th anniversary re-release. A great result. These are the things that we kept on talking about in the pandemic. If you remember, we need these special anniversary re-releases that are eventized. This one remastered in 3D to get people excited in the softer parts of the calendar. So remember, mid-August, not the strongest part of the calendar, right? And it did great business worldwide.
People need things to do. Like all around the year, people need things that are relatively affordable to go do. So even if it gives me like an existential crisis that the Babadook is coming back for a 10-year anniversary. I'm glad. I'm glad that it is.
Yeah.
And talking about the titles coming into the market, please stick around for our feature segment coming up after the break, when I talk to director J.J. Perry, the filmmaker behind The Killer's Game, coming out this weekend from Lionsgate. That is coming out after the break. How did you get involved in the project? How did this come to your desk?
So strangely, I got this script 10 years ago when they wanted me to be a stunt coordinator. I was working as a stunt man, stunt coordinator, etc. Then it came back around 3 years ago when I finished my movie Day Shift to be the second unit director. And then I'd brought Andrew Lazar in to watch a rough cut of Day Shift. And then after he saw that, he offered the movie to me. And I was, like thrilled to death. It was a big win. And the script been around a long time. And then when I got it, I asked Andrew, can I bring my friend James Coyne to do a little changes? Because a lot of the characters, the script had been around so long, a lot of the characters, everyone read it, took some of the characters and put them in their movies. Like you would see, so, the unintelligible Scottish brothers, Botas, my merengue killer, my two exotic dancer killers, etc. I think the only ones that really survived the original script was Love Doll and Marianne. And Marianne was actually a Russian girl, but I got my friend Palm to play it, so we made her more of a French hot.
I think it works perfectly well with how the final product comes on the screen. Of course, a big part of this movie is your leading man. This is Dave Bautista playing the lead in this film. He brings a great energy, and I'll tackle the action set pieces in a little bit, but let's start with Dave first. How did this end up being his movie? How did you come to the realization that, okay, this can work for him in a way that I don't think we've seen him on film before?
Yeah, so I'd met Dave a few times before, and I really wanted to work with him. And we hit it off really well. I met him when we were prepping John Wick 2, which was 10 years ago. Like I said, getting Killer's Game was a big win. Getting Dave Bautista was like winning the ultimate lottery for me, because he's exactly who I foresaw to play Joe Flood. So I heard there was some interest. We got on the phone, and next thing you know, it was like, he was like, yeah, bro, let's do it. And I was like, oh shit! I thought he was somebody who's. I immediately was like, did that just happen? And then when that happened, and then Sophia fell in line. We had a SAG waiver for the movie, but we shot it during the strike. So I just called all my friends, like Scott Adkins, Marco Zaror, Daniel Bernhardt, Palm. I just called my friends, like, if you know you're going to go somewhere and get into a fight, what do? You call your homies. So that's how it kind of all went down.
Well, in bringing all that talent together, you have to take into account all the different combat styles. Of course, everybody has a different comfort level in how they fight. That's what I enjoyed about the movie the most. All the action set pieces really leans into the different sort of combat styles that your very varied cast of characters has. How do you adapt the combat to Dave? What did he bring into those action set pieces that maybe you hadn't been able to do before as a stunt coordinator?
So, listen, you're only ever as good as your starting pitcher. And Dave comes from WWE, which is live show performance, which means there's no take two. There's no like, oh, wait a minute, there's 60,000 people watching you. So his ability to retain choreography, he watches it and he knows it right away. So that's a huge asset. And besides being an amazing wrestler, he's also a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Carlos Gracie. He's an amazing Jiu-Jitsu guy that can box. He's fought in MMA. A lot of the action stars that you have aren't really fighters. There's a lot of movie magic that goes into making them look really badass. Dave Bautista is an apex human. He's a dangerous MF, and he's super kind, super sweet, super generous. But if you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of that, because his fists are the size of lunchboxes, he's legit dangerous. So for me, having a starting pitcher like that's 6'4", 265 pounds, that moves like a tiger. All I got to do is point the camera in the right spot. That's all I got to do is put the choreography together and create problems for him and show how he solves them.
Now, of course, you've been involved in fight choreography and stunt work a very long time. Now that you're able to come in and direct your own features, bringing the full picture realized of what you want to do, what did the Killer's Game open up in terms of canvases, in terms of set pieces that you were maybe it was on your bucket list in prior projects?
So I love when it's not good guys and bad guys, like cops and robbers. I love it when it's all bad guys and some of them are good and some of them are bad. There's a gray area there. There's not a black and white line. Can't do this, you can do this. So I was stationed in Korea when I was in the Army, so I have a love affair with Korean and all things Korea. I immediately said, when I got it, I said, I need to burn some characters in there. Marco Zaror, Scott Adkins are dear friends of mine. I go way back with them and Daniel Bernhardt. I've done, 12, 14 films with each one of those guys. Martial arts films, and they're all amazing action actors that do amazing martial artists. So I knew right away with Marco, I called him, I said, I want you to put these headphones in, and we're going to have this merengue style where you're dancing. Because when I used to compete when I was a young man in taekwondo, there was a friend of mine that used to always wear a Sony Walkman, and when he had the Walkman on, he always fought better than when he didn't. So I kind of modeled that character after that guy. With Scott, my unintelligible Scottish hitman, I needed a brother for him. So I couldn't find anyone. I asked Dave, I said, hey, do you know a Scottish dude that can, he goes, bro, let's get McIntyre. As soon as we got Drew McIntyre on the phone, we hit it off right away. I couldn't understand a word he said, but he was super cool. I was like, this guy's perfect. So creating that kind of wrestling tag team style was another layer, another facet on the action diamond. You had Marco with his kind of merengue style. You had this Korean team with a kind of this taekwondo style. You have the two brothers with this wrestling style. And then I brought in my exotic dancers, which I wanted to make them a little more ballistic and, give them hand grenades and rifles and butterfly knives and knives that come out of their shoe. So for me, like being able to take a bunch of different, like taking that diamond that has a lot of facets, but putting my friends that I know can do the action. Because when you're shooting action, if you don't have great performers, it affects the way that the action is filmed because you're hiding a double. But what I did was I hired people that were all badasses. The best way to fake being a badass is just be a badass. Hire a bunch of badasses. And that's what I did. So the camera went where the action was the star of the scene. That's kind of how we ended it up.
Well, I think that leads to my next question in the sense that you worked in so many different projects, some with some stars that aren't action stars, that aren't actors that are used to combat, that maybe they'll go through like a 10-week fight camp, right? Like a 10-week preparation, kind of like they're getting ready for a fight. In this project, it seems like everyone is deeply involved with the genre and comes from a combat background. Does that make the choreography easier or harder? How do you make sure that you can like execute your vision? Or was it more improvisational because everyone came in with that experience?
No, we shoot previs beforehand, but I hired my people that I'd worked with many, many times. Like, everyone knows I'm going to make them look like a badass. Everybody had to trust me. And of course, I want their input, performance-wise. Like, so we lay the stunt viz out broadly, and then we bring them in and show them, and there are little tweaks that come. And Dave is amazing with his style of jiu-jitsu and wrestling and kickboxing. Like, we had the fight with Marco laid out. We made a few changes, and I couldn't be more pleased. But absolutely, it's based on the performers. I hired them by design. Like even Palm, who plays Marianne in the movie. After the movie, the remake of Old Boy is when I met her, back with Spike Lee directed. But she trained with us at 8711 for like 3 or 4 years, and she still trains. We didn't really get to show too much of that in this one. But like Palm's a legit badass. Second unit is the man or the woman that comes in and directs the action in a movie. So there's a level of responsibility that comes that matches the director's level. We have to come in on time and on budget. But the other level of responsibility is you don't want to kill anyone because somebody get killed on your unit. So that breeds a responsible filmmaker. And in being a responsible filmmaker and also coming from the Army, I just stack my deck full of aces. That way all I have to do is throw the cards down. I was really blessed to get this cast. What an amazing cast. And super stoked. I really enjoyed working with Lee Hun and the Goyang crew because that was a Korean stunt team I brought from Korea. It was my first time working with them. But pretty much everyone else in the movie, except for Sophia, I'd worked with many times. And I didn't work with Dave, but we had a relationship, a friendship already. So for me, I'm really blessed that I got all these hitters in my movie.
We've talked a lot about the characters, about the talent involved in the film. A big part of the film is the location shooting you did. I think a lot of the vistas, visually, it's a very interesting action movie. I love the action movies from the 80s. A big criticism of them is a lot of them are set in anonymous dark warehouse. Yours isn't. So let's go into those locations. Where you plan to set these big action set pieces? Because I think they work perfectly in the film.
So my grandfather that raised me in Texas was from Hungary. He's Hungarian. He had this really thick accent. I grew up eating fried chicken, but also cirke paprikash. So that the sound of his voice, the taste of the food, the smells, Budapest is very familiar to me. I've worked there many times, but I made Budapest, for me, it was number 3 on the call sheet. I made it a character in the movie. The reason we shot, yes, but the reason we shot the motorcycle sequence indoors, because we shot the movie in June, and there's only 4.5 hours of night there. It gets dark late, and it gets light early. So originally that motorcycles thing wasn't a motorcycle thing. It was a car chase. We couldn't afford to lock the streets up. So I said, and it was supposed to be at night. So what I said is, let's take them inside of a warehouse. That way we can shoot for more than 4.5 hours. So that would probably be the only one that, we shot in a castle. We shot at a castle, but the interior was a build. So, you think about, we shot the movie in 42 days, and it's a lot bigger movie than normally that's filmed in 42 days. And I was very fortunate to have such a badass action team. The guys that are with me as a second director, I got Justin Yu, Troy Robinson, Felix Betancourt. These are my action brothers that are always on the road with me. So we, they do the stunt viz, They set the wires. They're doing rehearsals, and I become a part of it. But when you're not just directing the action, as a director, you're responsible for a lot of things. You're responsible for 36 other departments. Making movies is a team sport. So but I can let my action team go because they've been with me on the road now. We've been together for like 10, 12, 14 years. We've done 30, 40 films all over the world. So I trust them and they trust me. So I get real-time feedback. And we edit the fights while we're shooting them. So there's a real-time, we can check things off the list in real time.
I think you can really see that in the finished product. The close-up here, we're the official publication of the Association of Theater Owners here in the U.S. Our audience is entirely movie theater operators. This is going to screens at a time where we really need films to hit screens at diverse genres. You're hitting that note perfectly. What's your message to our audience here of theater owners to have this hit cinemas all over the country?
Man, I'm just excited for people to see it because I didn't really set out to make an action movie. I set out to make a love story that has a head-on collision with a ridiculously fun action movie. And I think we did okay, man. I hope everybody enjoys it. Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a wild ride.
And that was director J.J. Perry from Lionsgate's The Killer's Game, coming out in wide release on Friday. Thank you so much for listening to the Box Office Podcast. Earlier, you heard from my colleagues Chad Kennerk and Rebecca Pahle. We'll be back with you next week with another episode of our podcast. Until then, please rate, subscribe, share, listen again. Why not? It was a short episode this week. And we'll talk to you again next week.